Hey everybody, it's Haley. Thanks for joining me. It has been a long time since I've created some content, but I'm excited to be back on my Bible journaling channel, documenting some notes from day 3 of the Tetelestai kit from By the Well for God. So, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave any questions or comments in the description box below, and I'll also list all the products that I use down there as well. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you guys like the video. So I'm working through day 3 of the Tetelestai kit from By the Well for God, and I'm going to divide my page up into 4 zones or sections using these incredibly old washi tape strips from Illustrated Faith. Like I said, if they're available, I'll link them below. And then I'm going to highlight in my devotional booklet the notes I'm going to record here. And they just say that the author Matthew presents Jesus as the king in his gospel, and Mark portrays him as the faithful servant, Luke is the son of man, and John is the son of God. And now I'm just taking an aqua brush. I used my Tim Holtz Distress Sprayer to wet the page and the watercolor dot card that comes in the kit. And now I'm just using an aqua brush to move some of those. I'm mixing those 2 green colors and just laying down a faint wash of color. I like using the aqua brushes because you can store water in the barrel of the brush, and those are nice if ever I'm a really messy crafter, and so the fewer jars of water around my desk, the better. And I used my heat gun to dry that, but I'm not going to make you watch paint dry. That's not a good time for anybody. So now I'm just going to take the floral stamp and the pumice stone distress oxide and make some visual texture on the page. I love texture, but I didn't want bulk. Here I'm just rubbing it on my arm. I've never used this stamp before, and that, I don't know, everybody does it and they say that it kind of primes the surface of the stamp. I do feel like it makes a difference. I don't really understand why, but I do it. So I'm going to use the Naomi Alpha from By the Well for God. In that top section over the tape, I'm going to stamp Matt, short for Matthew, because Mark, Luke, and John all have 4 letters, and I wanted it to look, the same visually. I didn't want one really long name at the top going over the text and then the rest be confined to the margin. So I just abbreviated Matthew to Matt. And I really like that stamp set because it has a colon. And so I was able to just ink up one of the dots to put a period at the end of Matt to show that it's an abbreviation. A lot of times stamp sets don't have like apostrophes or periods or parentheses, and I don't care for that because the black from my micron pens or my journaling pens is not the same as the black that I'm stamping with, and so that different shade just throws me visually. So anyway, I'm just going to stamp right over the tape so that when I peel it back gently in a few minutes, there's negative space left. So you got the top half of the letter and the bottom half of the letter. And it's really cool because your brain it kind of fools you into, like, you can read the word even though the whole letter isn't there. And I'm not going to make you watch that entire process. But then I do come in with a micron pen because the cross marks on my T's and my K and in the E of Luke didn't really show up. So I'm just going to add those right at the top of that tape line. So that it looks a little bit more like a K or an E. But here I'm just peeling it back. Something that I found when peeling back washi tape, obviously this video is sped up like a lot. So when I peel it back, I don't lift it at a 90-degree angle. I lift up a corner and I peel it back so that the 2 patterned edges of the tape are almost rubbing together as I peel it away. I guess that would be like a 0-degree angle, like a 1 or a 2-degree angle. I peel it back almost entirely on itself, and I go really slow. And that helps for some reason for me in my experience from the tape tearing. And now I'm taking the little Matthew stamp set from By the Well for God. And within that negative space, I'm going to stamp the word king for Matthew, servant over Mark, son of man over Luke, and son of God over John. Now, the pumice stone distress oxide is not an incredibly vibrant color, and I didn't want it to be bold necessarily, but I did want it to be legible. And so I stamped it, and then I'm using some, what is this? Ranger clear embossing powder. I used to have the chalk inks that By the Well for God sells, and I can't find them anywhere. I'm really, really bummed. But they were super juicy, and you could emboss with them really well. My distress oxides are not that juicy. It did work, but not to the effect that I wanted it to, so I only embossed the word king. But if you're new to heat embossing, you can either get an embossing ink pad, which is a sticky ink, or a really wet colored ink of your choosing, and then I just use clear embossing powder. I prep the surface before I stamp with my EK Success powder tool, and mine just has baby powder in it, and you wipe that down to eliminate any static off the page. And then I use my clear acrylic stamp block. I push my stamp in the ink, put it down on the page, and then immediately dump some of the embossing powder on top of it. And then I let it sit for 10-15 seconds, and I dump it off onto this paper plate. And then here I fold the plate in half, kind of like a hard shell taco shell, and you put the excess back in the jar, and then I put the lid on. I put the lid on my embossing powder after every step because I have spilled enough of them that it's just sad. And then I just use my heat gun, and I pass it over that maybe 20-30 seconds, and the heat melts the embossing powder, and it becomes almost like a plastic, and it's shiny. I'm doing the word servant, and I want the words to be kind of centered. So I count how many letters there are in the word, and then I figure out which one's going to be the middle, and I start with that letter. Because the stamp set is so small and the margins of this illustrating Bible are so large, I'm not at risk of running out of room, but I didn't want to start too far to the left and have it look off center. So I started with the V, and then I do the end, and now I'm working my way backward, which is also a good reason for making notes. Between every letter that I stamp, I cross it off so that I don't misspell something. That's happened to me twice. And for my personality type, it's really frustrating. So now I'm just, this is a cool trick I learned. Because Luke and John both have the words son of in their title, I have the S on the top of my stamp block, the O on the bottom, and the N on the back. And because these stamps are small enough, I was able to I stamped down my O of the of, and then I was able to do son backward like I did servant, and now I can just quickly go in and just flip it around. I did the N on the top, the N on the bottom, the O on the top, the O on the bottom, the S on the top, the S on the bottom. So it helped with not having to peel them off a bunch of times. So I really love how this page turned out. I'm super excited about it. It's subtle, it's not incredibly bright, but it's really punchy. And I love how, as I get older, and you're learning and you're gaining wisdom about relationships and communication, being able to recognize and understand that we each come to every conversation and situation with a different set of lenses, and we see the world based on our experiences. And as church planters, that's really helped me improve my flexibility in teaching and sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ with people. So I like knowing, okay, when I read Matthew, I'm going to read about Jesus the King and his true lordship. And so here I wanted to make sure that I knew what kit this came from, but in a subtle way. So I grabbed the stamp. It says Tetelestai, which means it is finished. And I used the pumice stone, which doesn't show up very well on this green paint, which is fine with me. And then I put embossing powder on it. And here I am putting it all back away. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat set it And then while the waxy plastic embossing powder is still melted, I'm going to pour more powder on top of it to give it even more like shine. And yeah, it turned out exactly like I wanted it to, which is exciting because I don't often go into this with like a vision. So when I do and it's realized, it's really exciting. So I hope you liked the video today. Make sure to check the description box for all the products I used, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.